Hello, listeners. Thanks for joining another episode of the Skin I'm In podcast. I'm your host, Chanel, and this is a place where women can tune in to gain peace through clarity, purpose through inspiration, and the permission to be themselves through the stories of other women. If you're enjoying these episodes so far, click the like, share, and subscribe button so that more women like you can be positively impacted by the stories in this podcast. Today's guest is a woman who inspires. A country girl at heart, raised in rural Victoria, her career has spanned across aged care, occupational health, and general practice. This incredible woman has also given up her evenings for many years to support women returning to the workforce at her local community centre. Her qualifications are in nursing, adult education, information technology, and leadership coaching. She's a prolific baker who loves to procrastinate. I will let her tell you what that's all about. She loves a good physical challenge and has run the Melbourne Marathon, completed Tough Mudder, and walked the Overland Trail in Tasmania. A highly motivated individual, a to-do list is on her list of things to love, as is building strong teams through her coaching and mentorship role as a leader. She is one of the most graceful women I know. She's a mother to 3, a grandmother to 1, and a soon-to-be wife for a wonderful second time round. My guest today is Karyn Foote. Welcome to the podcast, Karyn.
Thanks, Chanel. I'm very humbled by your introduction, and I am really excited to be here.
No, I can't wait to have this chat because I remember a little while ago you posted a LinkedIn post on imposter syndrome, and it resonated with me so much that it just stayed with me, and I remember it all the time. So I thought, how courageous of you to post about your inner dialogue in such a public forum, first of all, and it made me feel really inspired to do the same in my own life. I have wanted to always ask you, what made you post that about imposter syndrome, especially with how imposter syndrome makes you feel?
Yeah, look, I actually went back and read it again last night, and on the LinkedIn post, and I can actually now acknowledge how brave it was to do it. The thing for me was that I really needed to push myself out of my comfort zone. And when I realized what it was that I was feeling, that it was actually imposter syndrome and it was a thing, that was sort of really liberating. And I'm like, oh my God, there's other people that feel this. And so I wanted to share what I was feeling so that if someone was me, 6 months ago, they would get some comfort from reading it. Because I think one of the hardest things is that when you have those feelings, you think you're the only one that has them. And you think when you look at everyone else that they've got their shit together and you're the only person that hasn't, that internal dialogue is so debilitating. It just takes over everything in your life. And I wanted other people to know that they weren't alone, and that's why I posted it. And to go back last night and reread the post and acknowledge, wow, yeah, that was brave. But then to read all of the comments and the support and, everything that flowed from that, like that was humbling all over again. So, yeah, I'm really proud of that post. That was a line in the sand for me.
And how do you manage imposter syndrome on a day-to-day basis in the leadership roles you've held? I mean, you manage teams, you mentor teams. How does that how does it affect your role and does it, and how do you manage that?
Yeah, so I'm in a much better place now with my imposter syndrome because I can actually recognize the signs that I'm going, that I'm spiraling. And so I can pull myself up much more quickly. I think one of the important things is I ask myself, is this actually real or is it a story I'm telling myself? And, where's the evidence to support what I'm telling myself? When you actually take some time to step back and look for that evidence, it's never there, right? The evidence that I'm rubbish at what I'm doing and, I've made so many wrong decisions, all of a sudden they're going to realize that I don't know what I'm doing. When you look for evidence in your life, there is none. And that sort of brings you back down to earth a little bit. The other thing that I do is I look at the catastrophe scale. So am I going to die or is someone else going to die? And that's never the case.
Yeah, that's such a good way to look at it. Yeah.
So then you start to think, well, I need to pull it back a bit. So it's not catastrophic, but where is it on that scale? So is it mildly uncomfortable? Yeah, probably. And am I actually going to be worried about this in 2 weeks' time? Yeah, I'm probably never going to think about this again. It's just this moment in time that it's, really playing on my mind, and it's making my imposter syndrome, flare up, so to speak. The other thing that I tell myself is, you don't believe everything that you read in social media or on the news. You don't believe all of that. So why are you believing everything you tell yourself? Like, is this real? Or is this, is it just another story?
Yeah.
So that tends to ground me a little bit. And I think the last thing is stop comparing myself to others, because they may actually be in a worse place than I am. And even though they look like they've got it all together and they're really confident and they're smashing out the decisions and, kicking goals in their field, the reality may not be that.
Yeah.
So I shouldn't always compare myself to someone else, because I'm not walking in their shoes and they're not walking in mine. So, there's lots of little strategy. And if I start feeling, really anxious again, and, my emails are piling up and everyone's calling and, there's so much, I feel like I've got lots of, balls that I'm juggling, I recognize that feeling now, and I pull myself away from the situation, write myself a to-do list. Okay, what absolutely has to be done today? Is the earth going to end if I don't do it? What would be nice to get done today? And then I just work through what that list is. And then I sort of come back to a place where, oh no, got this. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, even as you're saying that, I was just thinking to myself, I was reading a stat recently about how suicide of young women has gone through the roof. And they're saying that they think that it's because of social media and that whole comparing piece, right? That for me is a really scary statistic. And so when I think of, how many women I know that experience imposter syndrome, like, what advice do you give to other women who are feeling that way and don't know how to get themselves out of it? Maybe they don't have the resources. Like, you've done leadership coaching, you've done a lot of things, you've been a leader for a long time, you've mentored and things like that. So what advice would you give to women who don't have those resources? Like, what can you put in their toolkit to help them kind of pull themselves out of that?
Yeah, that's a really great question. There's two activities that I do with my coaching clients, and I'm very blessed to have the opportunity to work with women that are feeling that way. The first is I do a career timeline. So women particularly, men probably do it as well, I can't comment, but women tend to, work really hard to achieve a goal, and then without giving themselves any recognition for that goal, move on to the next thing. So you're always moving on to the next thing. But you never take time to go back and look at, wow, look at all that stuff that I've already done and I've achieved, and, be proud of it. So the activity that I do is I get people to do a career timeline. So we start back at the start, what was your first job? What were you most proud of in that job? And so for me, it was like I worked, in Coles. I worked in Coles supermarket in the country town that I grew up in. And what was I most proud of? I was most proud of, I got to be the front end controller, which now with, Thomas the Tank Engine, that sounds really weird, but so that was where you looked after all the registers at the front. And so I was really proud of that. I was 16, that was a big thing in my life.
Oh my God, yeah.
So when you go through every one of the jobs that you've had and the things that you're proud of, when you get to the end of that exercise and look back, it's like, wow, I have actually done a lot. I've actually achieved a lot. And do I think I deserve to be in the place that I'm at now? And the answer is usually, yeah, I probably should be where I am now because of all the experience and, the learning and the achievements that I've had to get me to where I am today.